Dear students, welcome to the course of Architecture and Town Planning. Today, our topic of discussion is Objectives of Sound Planning. I am your teacher, Ravindra Kumar Khyani, architect, urban designer, assistant professor, Department of Architecture and Planning, NED University of Engineering and Technology, Karachi, Sindh, Pakistan. What are the objectives of sound planning? And what is sound planning? Let's begin our topic. In order to understand the objectives of sound planning, at first it is imperative to comprehend a little bit history of urban planning and planning attempts made by the initiator of planning in urban context. Because planning is not the work of today or it is not a current profession. It is a profession which is practiced since centuries. From Greeks, Romans, Indus Valley people, and other, you can say, civilizations have the concept of urban planning. And, and they have developed their cities and do plan their cities based on different objectives. And those objectives are different from each country and each civilization, whether it is the geographical conditions, geological conditions, climatic conditions, social conditions, economic conditions, or historical conditions. So whatever the conditions that had existed at their time, they have responded to those conditions and those problems and issues and then developed the objectives of sound planning. Then one may also ask the questions like what kind of objectives they had in mind while developing their cities. When we are developing our cities, what we are thinking, what objective we have in our mind, then whether they have achieved those objectives or not. So in history, we have to see that whether people who have done planning and with different objectives, whether they have achieved those objectives or not. And do their defined objectives may be referred to as objectives of sound planning or not? Whether they were only responding to the high income elites of the society, or they were addressing the issues of the poor people in the community, or they were addressing the issues of the middle income, or for which they have provided their services, and what kind of objectives they had in mind. What is meant by sound planning? Because for every city there is different kind of sound planning. If we are talking about New York, we have different objectives of sound planning. If we are talking about Karachi, we have different objectives of sound planning. So for each urban context, we have different objectives of sound planning because every area have different issues and set of problems. How the objectives of sound planning are formulated? So this is the basic question, that how do we formulate the objectives of sound planning? And for that matter, we have to first look at the context and the city and the society and the people and the culture, that what kind of existing conditions are evident in any area or city and how to improve it. And in order to improve the existing condition for the future, we have developed the objectives for sound planning. So in this way, sound planning objectives are formulated. In addition, it is also important to identify the urban context for which the planning is to be done, so as one may clearly spell out the objectives of sound planning. Now, there are different issues which are important to understand about the objectives of sound planning. For instance, why sound planning is so significant? The answer is that because it is a global issue to plan city. Let's look at the global condition about the sound planning.
In 1950, New York and Tokyo were the only so-called megacities, cities with more than 10 million inhabitants. By 1980, these were joined by Mexico City, Sao Paulo, and Osaka. In 2010, there were over 20 megacities spanning almost every continent. Today, there are 32 megacities. Urbanization is happening faster than at any time in human history. Asia accounts for over half of today's megacities. By 2030, nearly 9% of the world's population will live in 41 megacities. But it's in Africa where some of the most rapid urbanisation will take place in the future.
So you have seen what is the global situation of developing the megacities. These megacities are mostly now in Asia and then it will be in Africa. So we have to think about the megacities first and what are the issues of megacities and how to solve them and what objectives are required for the sound planning in megacities. Another issue that why sound planning is so significant is that because urban sprawl affected the cities a lot and sound planning is done when we address the issues of urban sprawl. Let's understand what is urban sprawl. Though we have discussed this in last lecture, but I would like you to see this video and understand what is urban sprawl and what is its response and how people around the globe respond to urban sprawl and what kind of sound objectives of sound planning they have in mind. So let's analyze and understand this. What is urban sprawl? If you live in a city or you have probably heard the phrase urban sprawl. It is a buzzword used by city planners and environmentalists alike. But what does urban sprawl really mean? Here you can see that defining the urban sprawl include the uncontrolled expansion of urban areas, specifically to nearby suburban areas. That is an excellent thing for architects and city planners to develop new suburban areas, but it is not good for environment. And for environmentalists, it is an issue. Because why do urban population center sprawl? One factor is that land is often more affordable outside the city. So people develop outside the city and they buy large tracts of land outside the city and develop their houses over there. Then there are housing income levels that give rise to the buying of the land outside the city. And people can have good cars, they can commute from suburban area to city center. But if you see, if they are not planned well, there is a perfect storm. There will be different kinds of flooding and other issues. We have also experienced this in Karachi. And there is a population explosion. These are the damaging effects of urban sprawl. And it affects the environment a lot. Because there is an increased level of air and water pollution, larger accumulated carbon footprint, second buildings, dilapidated buildings, and animal habitat get destructed by the construction of this. And there are only few farms which are available. But with all these adverse effects, what can we do to slow down urban sprawl? Here the Western concept that they are coming up with the concept of smart growth and new urbanism, through which they have their objective of sound planning to come up with the smart growth or to focus on new urbanism. So this is like the aspect that is quite common, and for Westerns the objective of sound planning to come up with the new urbanism and then respond to urban sprawl by smart growth. So what is the objective of sound planning for our context? What I feel that it is important that first of all we look at the quality of life in the people in our country or in our cities, how people are living, what problems they are facing every day, and how to solve these problems, and how to make our cities and places efficient so as they could have good quality of life. Quality of life is inherently linked to how a city is planned and developed. Because if you see the city of Karachi, how it is planned, and you can see how much there is the problem of congestion, traffic congestion, there is no mass transit railways, or there is no appropriate bus system, and the overall transportation network is not very efficient. And in this kind of situation, we should plan these things so quality of life can be better. Furthermore, finding a balance between cities' economy, natural and built environment, culture and heritage is the key. The other issue to improve the quality of life in our context is making the city's economy better. If the city is having good economy, then they must have the access to their resources. And there should be a balance between the natural environment and built environment. We should not continuously create the concrete jungle in the city, and we should not cut the trees in the city. So that is important for the quality of life, and we should increase the cultural activities within our city, and we should conserve or preserve the heritage of the city, and that is the key to improve the quality of life in the city. Thus, the first objective of sound planning is to create a healthy, livable city that is diverse, accessible, and progressive. That is the first thing. First of all, health is wealth. Health is important. If all people are healthy, they will have good thinking. And livable city where everybody can survive easily. And there should be diversity. Different communities must live in harmony, not fighting with each other or not, you can say, integrating with each other, but they should integrate for the betterment of the city because it benefits all the communities. And there should be accessibility to the finances, accessibility to the jobs, accessibility to the education, accessibility to the health, accessibility to different things so as to improve the quality of life, accessibility to the parks and playgrounds. And there should be progressive thinking. We should think about the future and the technology and the technological convergence and how do we improve our life physically, mentally, socially, economically, and culturally. Now, here is this figure which shows you the attributes of quality of life. In order to achieve quality of life, you must have a good education because education is one of the important factor. Secondly, the health and safety factor. The health of the citizens should be better and safety should be provided to all the citizens in the city. Then work factor. There should be having a job security and more jobs in the city or more workplaces. Then there are, you can say, psychological factors because in cities there is a congestion and due to congestion there are because different kind of problem and the overall people get stressed, so there is a stress factor. During driving they feel stress in the house or in the household and outside in the neighborhoods if they are not having good environment, so there is a stress. Then there is a family factor because everybody wanted to have a good family life, and family life in urban area is disturbed because the people are making less income and working very hard. And then there is a spiritual factor to improve the quality of life because if you are spiritually better, then quality of life will be better. So all these attributes are important to have a good quality of life, and good quality of life is the objective of sound planning. Let's go ahead. Then we should design complete and interconnected neighborhoods which foster a sense of community and are designed for the people of all ages, income levels, and accessibility requirements. So this is very important. That in a good city, if you wanted to make a good city, the objective should be to design complete neighborhoods. The neighborhoods should be interconnected with each other, and there should be sense of community. Every community must have a sense of belongingness to their not only their community but for the city. And the city should be designed in a manner that people for all ages can enjoy. For example, the young people have the activity places of their own, the children have the activity place of their own, the old people must have an activity place of their own, and you can say the all the income groups must have a good, you can say, facilities, because even if you are a poor man or if you are a middle income or if you are a high income, you have different activities to enjoy. City has many natural things. For example, sea is very important. In city of Karachi we have a sea, a long coastal belt which should be available for all income groups. It should not be given only to the rich people or the powerful people to get control of the sea, because sea is a natural facility, and for natural facility the poor people must have the accessibility to the sea. So accessibility requirements is very important, and that is one of the important objective of sound planning, that people should have good neighborhood places and activity places for all income groups, all ages, and accessibility should be available to the natural environment and natural environmental assets. Then we should prevent the negative effect on health and well-being of the people. This is also one of the major objective of sound planning, that people should have a healthy environment. They can do physical exercise and physically remain fit. And for that matter, you require walkways, you require park areas, you require public places where people can go out and move around, and they should have a shady places so you can walk, just like this square. And we should prevent negative effect. For example, there should not be in social environment that can destroy the place. There should be good social environment and integration of the space with people. We should make it appropriate to uses and function of the place and enhance its perception and experience. For example, if people are coming to a city, they should not have negative effect of the surrounding of the city. They should have pleasing effect. For example, they can see that when they are moving the city, they have good experience. For example, experience of nature, experience of bird, experience of trees, experience of good water bodies, experience of social interaction, experience of different kind, which make them happy from inside. And that is also one of the objective of the sound planning. Then the planning has to be holistic and long term. This is one of the major issue, that we do ad hoc solutions and we provide ad hoc solution to the people. We should provide the holistic solution where all the problems must be addressed one by one, and we should have a long term planning, we should have short term planning, we should have medium term planning, so that we can know that over the period of time what kind of improvement will come, what kind of physical condition will improve, and when it will be improving, so that people can plan for their future. And we should involve the people in the planning process. There should be creativity, and there should be performance, and there should be commitment, and there should be transparency in the whole process of the planning. And that can be ensured when we involve common people in the planning process. And this is also one of the main objective of sound planning, to involve communities and people and private sector with the public sector, and together we can make improvement. Not single person should be given the responsibility. A master plan for the city defining qualities to be maintained or achieved. There should be a master plan for the city, that how city will grow over the period of time, and what qualities we wanted to have in our city, and how do we maintain the city, because only creating new places is not the solution. Maintaining an existing one is the most important thing. To create a new thing is an act of optimism, but to sustain an existing one, it is an act of courage. So it is important that we should have a courage to maintain our cities. And people involvement at all levels should be there. Involvement of people in the general planning process from the very beginning till end should be there, so as to ensure that all the planning should be implemented, because implementation is a major issue in planning. Then we have different, you can say, objectives of sound planning. And now I am going to tell you one by one what we have discussed and what we should have as objective of sound planning. First of all, we should have improving the quality of the city, because city should not remain filthy. If city is not clean and filthy, then what impression it gives? It gives very bad impression to the people who visit your city. The places should be properly clean and maintained. And maintenance is one of the most significant aspect of sound planning. Then providing affordable housing and amenities for us all. Here you can see that the rich people or high income group is only 5 to 10%. And middle income group is 20 to 30%, whereas low income group is the 60% of the population. So where you have a 60% population very poor and of low income, they need affordable housing and amenities, for example, health amenities, education amenities, recreation amenities, because that is important. So that is also an objective of sound planning, to design and work for the city and plan for the city for the poor people, and those people especially who are living below poverty line, because the poorest of the poorest must be responded and given the good quality of life, and that is the responsibility not only of the planners but all the people in the city. So this should be the second objective of sound planning. Third, ensuring access for people with disabilities. This is one of the most important aspects. There are so many people who are blind, who are unable to walk. There are special people, and they should have the facilities to enjoy in the city or work in the city. So they should have access to all the places, and they should have access. For example, if people cannot walk, they should have a universal way of design of places, so that they can have accessibility to all the places if they wanted to cross the road and if they are blind. So there must be a system through which they can independently cross the road. That is the important thing, ensuring the access for people with disabilities to all the facilities in the city. And that is important and objective of the sound planning. Then improving the parks and other community facilities, because the healthy environment is only possible when there are parks and open spaces and places for people, the healthy places for people, where people can walk, people can talk, people can have social interaction, they can exercise. Do they do different kinds of things, especially for old people? Good parks are very important, and for children the parks are very important. So improving parks, other community facilities is also the important objective of sound planning. Furthermore, creating good places for socio-economic activities. I mean, we should have a space that should be available for the poor people to make money. There should be space for the common people or people living in below poverty line. They must have access to economic activities. So good places are those where not only have the social interaction, but good places are those where people have a socio-economic activities, and they should have the income generation spaces, and these spaces are very important in a city, and especially the city where the poor people are more than rich and middle income class. Then protecting environmental quality of city. It is also one of the main objective of sound planning, because without good environment, people cannot sustain. And environment is not only the physical environment or the natural environment. Natural environment is must. There should be good natural environment, but there should also be good social environment. There should also be good economic environment. There should also be good cultural environment, because all these environments make a complete set of requirements. So protecting the environmental quality of the city is another major objective of sound planning. Furthermore, establishing city beautification programs, because one cannot live in ugly cities or bad looking cities. We should be having an aesthetic sense as an architects, as an engineers, as a planners, as a construction engineers, or as any kind of professional. As a professional, as educated people, we must have a sense of beauty in our mind. So we should start making city beautiful, and city beautiful program or city beautification program must be established. This is also one of the main objective of sound planning. Furthermore, conducting city cleanup programs, because our city, we are generating lots and lots of waste. You know, cities are basically utilizing 70% of the natural resources of the world, and cities are producing 75% of the world's waste. So all the cities, especially the large cities, they produce lot of waste, and they utilize lot of resources, and they are not taking care about the solid waste management and cleaning of the city. So conducting city cleanup programs is a responsibility not only of the government but the private sector, common people, people living in a neighborhood, and people who have a sense of belongingness to their city. So there should be a social movement considering the filthy environment. We should have conduct the cleanup programs, and that is also one of the objective of sound planning. Then promoting city development action. We should do development not only physical but the social and economic development and cultural development. And there should be different organizations, not only in the government but also in the private sector, also in the neighborhoods, also in districts, also in the towns. So there will be different scale, or even at street level, we should have a development action. The people who must be responsible for the good environment in the street, people must be responsible for good environment in the neighborhood, people should be responsible good environment in a town or union council, and people should be responsible for good environment in the whole city. So when we promote such kind of development action, that is also the objective of sound planning. Only then our cities could be better. So these are the objectives of sound planning. Finally, we should enhancing the built environment through design. Means we should design all the places. Without design, if haphazardly things will develop, if informal sector will develop, if the private sector do development on their own without considering the cultural heritage of the city, without considering the existing condition of the city, then built environment will be distorted or destroyed. So in order to enhance built environment, we should design all the places and we should engage the urban designers, the architects, the construction engineers, the civil engineers, the urban sociologists, urban geographers, urban economists to come together. And together we can improve our built environment through design of the small scale house, or to a street, or to a neighborhood, or to a union council, or to a ward, or to a town, and or to a whole city. So in order to improve the whole city, we should enhance the built environment through design processes, and design processes must be initiated. Finally, if you have further any question, you can ask this your question. Please do write with you your questions and ask during the live sessions with me. These are the references which I have used for the this lecture, because I always read these books and notes and then prepare my lecture on the given topic. So I must acknowledge these people. Finally, thank you very much for listening to the lecture. For detailed lecture notes, I already tell you to visit my blog www.townplanninglectures.blogspot.com. I thank you very much once again. Wish you good luck and see you in the next class.